was no shortage of threats facing Apollo astronauts on missions to the moon, like radiation. Specifically, the dense radiation environment of the Van Allen belts that surround our planet. When it launched Apollo missions through the Van Allen belts on a path to the moon, NASA didn't just hope for the best. The agency had studied the Van Allen problem, as it were, knew the risks, and made the decision to go anyway. And not one astronaut died from passing through the Van Allen belts. So NASA faked the moon landing in a studio. The Van Allen belts are a collection of charged particles, gathered in place by Earth's magnetic field. They can wax and wane in response to incoming energy from the sun, sometimes swelling up enough to expose satellites in low Earth orbit to damaging radiation. The discovery of the belts is credited to James Van Allen, and as a result the Earth's belts are known as the Van Allen belts. Moon landing conspiracy theories claim that some, or all elements of the Apollo program, and the associated moon landings were hoaxes staged by NASA, possibly with the aid of other organizations. The most notable claim is that the 6 manned landings, 1969 to 72, were faked and that 12 Apollo astronauts did not actually walk on the moon. Various groups and individuals have made claims since the mid-1970s that NASA and others knowingly misled the public into believing the landings happened by manufacturing, tampering with, or destroying evidence including photos, telemetry tapes, radio and TV transmissions, moon rock samples, and even some key witnesses. Much third-party evidence for the landings exists, and detailed rebuttals to the hoax claims have been made. Since the late 2000s, high-definition photos taken by the Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter (LRO) of the Apollo landing sites have captured the lander modules and the tracks left by the astronauts. In 2012, images were released showing 5 of the 6 Apollo missions' American flags erected on the moon still standing. The exception is that of Apollo 11, which has lain on the lunar surface since being accidentally blown over by the takeoff rocket's exhaust.
All right. Yeah. Thank you. The light's a little bright in here. Hi, Mom. Made it here too. Can you hear me okay? Yeah, I'll get back to the club, I promise. But I could not turn down this invite. No way. You couldn't let that pass by at 17,000 miles an hour. Who would do that? Opportunity of a lifetime. Yeah, I do miss the club. But look at this.
Opinion polls taken in various locations have shown that between 6% and 20% of Americans, 25% of Britons, and 28% of Russians surveyed believe that the manned landings were faked. Even as late as 2001, the Fox television network documentary Conspiracy Theory, Did We Land on the Moon?, claimed NASA faked the first landing in 1969 to win the space race. NASA has been urged to provide conclusive proof once and for all that the moon landings were real and not faked. The 50th anniversary of Neil Armstrong's first steps on the lunar surface took place last month, but many conspiracy theorists across the globe remain convinced it was the biggest cover-up of all time. In the interview footage, a bearded, bespectacled Kubrick outlines how he was approached by the US government and asked to make the film. I perpetrated a huge fraud on the American public, which I am now about to detail, involving the United States government and NASA, that the moon landings were faked, that the moon landings all were faked, and that I was the person who filmed it, he says. He then goes on to state that he perpetrated the hoax after being bribed, and that he considers the moon landings footage his masterpiece. At the heart of the theory are claims that the radioactive Van Allen belt around Earth would have been lethal to fly through. taking part in a speakers panel at the 27th Annual Glastonbury Symposium, an annual conference dedicated to the paranormal, conspiracy theories, alternative thought, and New Age philosophies. Mr. Allen said, "I don't believe man landed on the moon. If NASA or anyone else can prove it, I am waiting to hear, because I can't work it out. It is the 50th anniversary apparently, but how did they do it? If it was so easy in the 1960s, surely they could do it any day now, and so could Russia, Japan, India, even North Korea." Mr. Allen went on to suggest that NASA has since admitted, in a roundabout way, that it is not really possible for space travel beyond the Van Allen belt. He said, "It wasn't easy. There are so many difficulties to be overcome." NASA admitted this since in not so many words. If you read NASA's technological information, they say we have real problems. They just don't say they had a problem at the time. NASA is next planning to send astronauts to Mars in the next 30 years or so, but Mr. Allen rubbished the proposal. He said, "They are now talking about going to Mars. It is ridiculous because anyone who tried flying to Mars would be dead in 3 weeks." Mr. Allen has given many TV interviews over the years on the reasons for his beliefs. He has often said he watched the landings live on TV, and wanted to believe it happened, but since evidence that proved it didn't happen came forward. Meanwhile, they claim the pictures and videos shown to the world had been pre-recorded in a secret studio featuring a mocked-up moon surface. They say anomalies to do with light exposed they were fakes. Mr. Allen's main argument is that the highly radioactive Van Allen belts would kill the astronauts, who were given no radioactive-proof space suits for the mission. The radioactive environment around Earth is due to charged particles becoming trapped in the Earth's magnetic field, which protects us from deadly radiation getting to the ground. Because they do not dissipate into space, they have formed 2 nested donuts around us, which are between 600 and 3,700 miles above Earth, and 9,300 and 12,400 miles above the planet respectively. As the moon is around 238,000 miles from us, the Apollo missions had to clear these, and conspiracy theorists claim it is still not possible today. NASA does not comment on specific moon hoax claims, but has previously vehemently denied any of the Apollo missions were faked, and insists we have made it to the moon.